I wanted to have an international brand, but at the same time, it was very important to me for me not to be always on an airplane, opening shops and not doing the things I like to do. Every time I would raise awareness and every time people would know more about autism, my son would be accepted more. The explosion happened very close to us, and it destroyed my atelier, it destroyed my shop, it destroyed my house. We have a sort of an army of women in each village, almost all around Lebanon, and they act like chef d'atelier with Sarah's bag.
There are so many aspects to this that are wonderful, but I love the fact that it was that one thing 20, 25 years ago that you did that you're still relying on, you know? I think that's a lovely story. Professionally, your story begins when you were doing your thesis and you came across women in prison, and you decided to talk about their story through your thesis, and it inspired you to create a rehabilitation program. So walk me through a little bit the origin of the Sarah's bag story, if you like.
I love this. I love what happened to me. Actually, I did my thesis on prostitution. So I spent 6 months in an NGO that takes care of women that have this problem, that want to get out of this problem. And during these 6 months, I encountered so many women and their stories and what they've been through. And I did a qualitative research. So it was like each woman, I would sit with this woman, hear her story, figure out what led her to prostitution, figure out what could stop her from this. And like I had 20 cases, so I had like 20 big stories in my thesis. And when I finished, I got a good grade, and I said to myself, you know what, I just can't move on with my life. You know, it was such a special period in my life, but I learned a lot. I got a good grade, and I said to myself, you know what, I just can't move on with my life. You know, it was such a special period. I went back to the NGO where I entered and interned, and I told them that I would like to help throughout crafts, and they told me the best way to help is to do something in the prison. It was purely a social project and a way for me to give back, because I had spent 6 months with these girls, and I intended to have an impact on them. And I entered the prison not knowing anything. Like I entered with a few, if you know, the Mexican bracelets we used to do when we were young. They had a sort of
Yeah.
a sort of very basic machine. So I created 10 of these machines and went to the prison asking who would like to work with me. And I was very, very lucky. And when I look back at all these things, I realize how lucky I was, because I encountered girls who had been stopped by Brazilian girls who had been stopped smuggling drugs in Lebanon. And they were very, very skilled with their handwork. And this is where I started with them. And slowly there was a sort of uh, fever in the prison. Like everybody wanted to work. It was the only way they could get money in. And everybody started to teach each other. So the girls started training each other. The first bracelet came out to be very basic and not something I would sell. So directly I started researching what would be the next thing I would do. I went to a bookstore and started getting books about beading. And I was so lucky because the lady who was responsible of the bookstore told me that she was working on beading bracelets herself. And if I would like to go with her to Syria, um, to Suq al-Hamidiyeh to buy raw material. And I was like, okay. So the next day I found myself in one of these taxis where you rent your space for $10. And I went with her. This is a girl I never saw in my life, only this time. She took me to all the wholesalers of Suq al-Hamidiyeh. And at that time in Lebanon, the craft and the bead industry wasn't that like prosper. So there was no yeah, sources for these things. So the sources were in Syria. So her taking me to the sources from the start opened my eyes and made me able to continue like what I was thinking of. Like it was an eye opener for me, and she also burned the stages for me. Like instead of me not finding raw material in Lebanon and maybe stopping the whole project, she led me
Yeah, yeah.
in a way. Uh, God bless her. I never saw her again in my life. I know that she went to Redondo Beach and she was doing these basic bracelets. And on the other hand, when I walked through Suq Al Hamidiyeh, I started to get inspired from all these canvases and all the different types of embroidery and threads and beads and everything I could buy there. So it was like, oh my God, this
So
is
she
where I
came
should.
into your life at the right time.
Exactly, and I remember never seeing her again. But I'm so grateful that
Yeah.
she passed through my life because when I got back from this trip in Syria, I realized, no, maybe the bracelets are not a good idea. But what if we take a canvas, the old canvases that my grandma used to do, and we actually beaded? This would be perfect because it demands high intensity work that would last for 1 week of work. So I could visit the prison once a week and supply them with the work and take the work that was done. At that time, I was working still at my brother's. My brother has a company that buys stocks from the States and they sell them. So I was working with my
Yeah.
brother, and we had a guy who used to fix. For example, if we received handbags, he used to fix them. So I went to that guy and told him,
Yeah.
if I get you a canvas, and would you turn it into a handbag? He said yes. And I told him what I wanted exactly. And like the next day, I had this canvas worked and then it was done into a bag. And I was like, oh my God, I found it. That was what I was going to do.
What year was this, Sarah?
It was in May 2000.
In 2000. And so that was your first, the beginning, the seeds of Sarah's bag was in that.
Yeah, and we started so small. I started so small, and yeah, even the first few bags orders I took, I always made everybody pay half of it because I didn't like it was a way to finance myself and to finance the project, and it was a pure project. It's only after a couple of months when I had this amazing lady called Maria Hibri who came and I used to teach her kids private lessons. She came and she saw the project I was on, and she was like, "Oh my God, you need to do an exhibition. Why don't you prepare a few bags, like 100 bags, and let's do the first exhibition?" And also at that time, my best friend Sarah, who had no job, and she was starting to draft with me, to color, and we were working together. Like everything came together very slowly, but it was only after our first exhibition that happened in December 2000 that we realized we have something strong. After the exhibition, we were able to sell over 100 bags. This is when like we established Sarah's Bag as a 9 to 5 job and as a company.
Yeah, yeah. And the women in the prisons, they are not still the people producing your work, are they? Or are they?
We worked with in the prison for a very long time until the COVID. After the COVID, we didn't have access to the prison, the same access we had before. And at the same time, when the economical crisis hit, we had so much demand from women outside of the prison. So we restructured everything in a way where the girls that worked with us in the prison for the longest time do like they form groups of women in their villages and they train other women around them. So it became like a
I
cottage
see.
industry because of the need and because of the decline of the economical situation in Lebanon. And we started receiving calls from women who used to work as secretaries, they used to work as teachers. They can't commute back and forth from where they live and earn their money and so on. So they prefer to work in the comfort of their own houses. So we have a sort of an army of women in each village, almost all around Lebanon, and they act like chef d'atelier with Sarah's Bag.
It's very interesting. How many people are considered employed now by the company?
Internally, we have 25, like I have every day coming to the office, 25 women working with us. But I work with 250 women in terms of handwork. And
Yes.
we work with like eight ateliers, like small workshops around Lebanon that actually do the handbags.
In 2009, you decided that it was time to go international.
Yeah,
But then, as well, you mentioned that you, at some point down the line, decided actually much later that you were not going to continue to
doing this.
focus so much outside of
Yeah.
Beirut. Yes. What was the thinking for that? Why did you change the emphasis? Why did you do that? Because everyone always thinks bigger is better, and you didn't think that.
Actually, there's something that was very important. The way we work is quite complicated. Like to have the final product, it goes through so many stages, and there's so many problems that could go wrong, and anything can go wrong during these stages. But when we started to export a lot, we started to realize that we are not a company that could actually mass produce, and our items are special. Each one is different. We have so many SKUs. Um, we couldn't. We started like we were all over the world. We were selling at Matches.com. We were selling at Net-a-Porter. We were selling at Colette at that time. We were selling at shops in Japan, and like really, I had 50 points of sale at a point. But we were actually, it was exhausting for me because every 6 months I had to present a collection that was completely different from the previous collection. It was exhausting to do all these samples and be there in like after you're completely depleted because you did a new collection. You have to go and stand and present the collection. At that time, through يعني in 2010, also my sister joined me, and we looked into the system. My sister Malak, her name is Malak.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we started to realize that it's exhausting, and it doesn't pay off. Like, okay, it's brand building. I used to remember I would wake up and look at my Instagram, and there was influencers that I never knew wearing our bags. And it was really satisfying in terms of ego, if you want, but it was exhausting. It was exhausting, and it didn't make sense. No, our product was special. It was special, and
Yes.
if I wanted to reduce the steps and make it will become like any other product, and I wanted to stay special. And
Yeah.
at that time when Malak started working with me, we also looked into what we were doing, yeah, our lives, how we would like to live our lives, how we would like to, and we wanted to be happy. And I wanted to have an international brand, but at the same time, it was very important to me for me not to be always on an airplane, opening shops and not doing the things I like to do.
I find it very refreshing, Sarah, that you made this decision because most people are always chasing big, big, big opening new markets. That this is always the forward momentum. It's become a doctrine in its own right, and people feel that they have to be big, 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 and constantly be moving forward.
Also, being a woman, a working woman, and when your work is doing so well, it's very destabilizing because you want to give attention to your family and you want to, like, you're all over the place. So it was also a decision for me
I
to.
want to talk to you about that. Clearly, you had major personal family obligations and considerations to take into account. Your older son Malik, you found out in 2005 that he was autistic, and I'd like you to talk to us about this because it's a massive there's much more awareness about autism, but it's still underdiagnosed, maybe not known as well. But obviously this was a major part of what you were dealing with.
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about how you coped with that.
I remember I was pregnant with Taimur, my second son, and I was going to give birth when I got the diagnosis. And it was very hard because at first My optimism, I'm so optimistic. At first, I thought that it's something that developmental that he will overcome with time. And I think this idea helped me a lot because it wasn't like a death sentence. It was like, no, it's gonna get better, it's gonna get better, and so on. But it was very tough on the family and on me and on my work, yani on everything. It was very tough. When I look back at it, it also now I realize that sometimes I think I also buried myself in work because I wanted to like switch off from home and just do something I love and forget about. It was quite tough because I had to do like a school at home. I had to do homeschooling. I had to take Malik every 3 months to London because this is a time where there were no Zooms yet. Every time you had to do a meeting, you had to do it on a like face-to-face meeting. So I used to go to London, have an educational program with me, train three therapists on his program, and then work on the program in Beirut and so on. It was really hard.
Because at the time, Sarah, there was not adequate care for autistic children in Beirut.
No, it was not known yet. It was really at the beginning. People, yani, I think I played a major role in raising awareness for autism because I felt at that time, this is what was my role. I people would know Sarah's bag and would know me, and all my friends, really all of them, participated in fundraising and finding nice ways to fundraise. We worked with the Lebanese Autism Society. We did the marathons. We did so many things to fundraise and create awareness around autism. And I felt that this was also my duty. And it felt every time I would raise awareness and every time people would know more about autism, my son would be accepted more. And this is why I work towards it a lot.
How did his diagnosis impact your family? How did Taimur grow up as the younger brother of an autistic boy? What is the dynamic at home? I'm assuming Taimur is a very considerate boy because of this.
When you have a son with autism, um, Malik is not like severely autistic, but it's a spectrum. He's a little bit in the middle. We were able to train him on a lot of things, but we mainly trained him on everything functional. I decided at a point that I wanted to stop everything academic and go
Yeah.
for things that are practical. Taimur is a little bit like an only kid who's not an only kid. Like he has the benefits of being an only kid, but at the same time he has the empathy and of having a brother with autism. Like, يعني, whenever we want to do anything, and I would go like, let's travel, me and you and Mazen. He said, no, we have to take Malik with us. Like he has these sorts of, but honestly, and it's not like having any. It's not like having a brother. You grow up with um, different skills, and the fact that he's a second kid, so he was born with Malik at home. It's not something that happened to him later on. So it's something
That
very
came later.
natural.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's something very natural.
Yes.
And at first, I remember when we used to invite Taimur's friends over to play, I used to call the mothers and explain the situation. So they would explain to their kids. And then it became very normal because of the awareness we worked on. Really, all the society around me um, were very supportive.
I think also, in today's world, there's so much more awareness of everything. People are much more tolerant. People are much more open. They're not as, there are no more taboos that there used to be before. Each person is different, and there's an acceptance of that has grown natural in today's world.
Exactly. And whenever you explain, and yani, I remember from the slightest thing, remember it was hard for Malik to stop jumping on the trampoline. So he would go and stay for like longer than other kids. And I would explain for the guy
Mm.
maintaining the trampoline, sorry, but it's going to be very hard to take him off. We have to uh, count backwards and do some things. And he would understand and he would educate everybody around. So it's all
Yeah,
education. It's all
yeah.
you have to train
It's
people.
amazing.
You
It's
have to talk
amazing.
about it. And I felt, having this. this challenge in my life also made me a sort of a spokesperson about autism and made me a part of many associations related to autism. And I had, like, I
Mm.
helped a lot. I felt it was my duty.
Presumably, because of your home situation, wanting to have that balance became all the more essential. And I mean, now it becomes very clear to me why the international element couldn't go on. You had to be present. You wanted to
Yes,
be
yes.
available.
And at a point, I thought of how my life would be if I was like this global brand, and how my life would be. I would be on the plane nonstop. I would be opening shops. I would be doing stuff that I don't want to do. Like, I love to design and create. I
Yeah.
love to sit with these women and discuss what we go, like, the collections we're working on. I love to create, like, I love the creative part of what I do, and I love it a lot. I didn't want to stop doing it. I also realized that, and this is something I realized later on when after the economical crisis and our money got stuck in the bank. You don't need much in life. Yani, when you work too hard and you have all this money in the bank that you never use, maybe, or I don't know. I was not eager to make more money. I was more eager to
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
a balanced and a life I would love to live.
Let's switch gears a little bit, Sarah,
Mm.
and go back into a little bit the business side. And we know that 2019, with what was happening in Beirut, was also a major turning point, I think, for your lives, for your business. And then COVID, and obviously after that, the bombing that happened in the port in Beirut. Tell me a little bit about what you learned from those experiences, how it impacted your business and you as well.
Actually, it was very first came the Thawra, and then the economical collapse, and then our money got stuck in the bank. So everything was step by step, but it was degrading by the week. I learned that I have a very good support system. I have a very good team I work with, and a team I could really rely on, because we all took like a stand that we're going through bad times, so we need to gear up and do something about it. Um, it was very hard. Really, it was. Yeah, just remembering when we had this lira versus dollar versus devaluation versus, like, I needed a mathematician with me every time I needed to calculate a cost of something. It was really, really hard. But nothing could top يعني, the explosion, because the explosion happened very close to us, and it destroyed my atelier, it destroyed my shop, it destroyed my house. يعني, at all levels, I was like, I woke up and then I was like, I know. And then, especially for somebody like, I identify a lot with the brand. Although I didn't call it Sarah Beydoun, it's called Sarah's Bag. But like, I'm so fused with the brand that when I realized that I have nothing to do, I can't do anything. I was like, oh my God, uh, shall I continue? Shall I stop? Does it make sense? What I'm doing, I'm creating handbags. I know I'm helping, but
You started to question everything.
everything. The next morning after the explosion, I had a TV come and shoot shoot an interview with me in the garden, and the garden was like full of glass, crushed glass, like everything was damaged. Everything. There was this moment when they came and took a video of me in the garden, and they like when they started rolling, I said to myself, I wouldn't cry. Okay, although I was like completely shattered. And the moment
Yeah, yeah.
they started rolling, I started crying, and the video went viral. I had like shares everywhere, and people would start calling me, telling me that how important my work was, and how I was like, they wouldn't see Lebanon without me, and so on. And this was really a turning point, because I felt there was this community backing me up. I felt what I was doing was not
Yeah.
just handbags. It had, I always knew that it had the social impact and so on, but just feeling how people reacted to that video that went viral was amazing. And this is when I decided, you know what, this is the point where I'm needed the most. If I leave now, you know, it wouldn't be possible.
Absolutely. But also the fact that you turned your back on that international path. You wanted to remain local, so this was even more reason to keep going. Really, I mean, when you think about it.
But I need to tell you, I did turn my back on the international pass, but we were selling internationally via our own channels, يعني via our online shop, via our own channel. We did pop-ups and so on. It was not like a major turn, a complete turn, but
Yes,
it was more an international presence according to our own rules, if you want, according to what fits us best.
you were doing it on your terms.
Exactly. So that explosion also meant this is where I decide that Taimur has to leave the country. Although I stayed here, I sent him uh, to um, a school in Jordan, and so it was also very destabilizing for me. Like
Yes,
the whole situation. Yeah, 2020 was a very tough year on
very
everything, and
difficult.
very difficult. And then I decided to, you know what, I'm not going to leave. I'm going to try to pick up all the pieces and see what to do. But things went right, and we got a lot of help. And very, very luckily, we had this contact with Chloe that also uh, opened up a very important collaboration for us.
I want you to think back and look at your career, at what you've achieved, and if someone was to say to you, "What is your legacy?" What would you say?
I would love to be remembered as somebody who empowered and impacted women. Um, the fact that when you train women and you give them a skill, and the what they do with the skill, and the way they change, and how they also would train other women on working. Like, I like this positive ripple effect that Sarah's back creates, and I would like to be remembered for this while doing nice stuff. Like, I'm very happy. I want us to be remembered as, I want Sarah's Bag to be remembered as a design company, but as a social enterprise first, and then as a design company.
I love the fact that you had this idea for your dissertation or when you were in college, and it's taken you through your entire career. I just find that really inspiring that you had this one idea very early on, and it allowed you to develop your company, but also give back. I mean, there are so many aspects to this that are wonderful, but I love the fact that it was that one thing 20-25 years ago that you did that you're still relying on, I think that's a lovely story.
I need to tell you, I did this, but I do it every day. So every day we have an exercise of, even when we create, we have to think of all the teams that work with us. What are their craft? What in each collection we need to include these craft, and so on. So I know it's the idea I got 23 years ago, but it's an idea that I keep on working on. So the human side of Sarah's Bag is very important, and it's something that we actually work on. So we keep,
Of course.
so we continue, yeah, so we keep it.
That's wonderful, Sarah.
We're very human centric in the way I'm, as a person, very human. Yani, I have this. I've always was very sensitive. Sensitive to people and very empathetic and so on. But I like that it's something that it's like a fil conducteur within my life, and something I'm very proud of.
It's wonderful, Sarah, what you're doing. I'm a consumer of your products,
Yeah.
and I love the fact that it's a good product to buy as well. It has a
Thank you.
history and a background to it. Well, Sarah, this was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was a great interview.
Thank you.